You are awesome, and I believe in your dreams. My name is Jeremiah Knight. I am the author of Diaries of a Holy Night, The In-Between, and I will be reading you Diaries of a Holy Night, The In-Between, Chapter 1. There is a preface. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Revelations 3:16, English Standard Version. Chapter 1, Reality. Justin Smith screamed as his eyes tore open and his head left his pillow. He sat up, matting his dark surfer hair out of his hazel eyes to find that he was safe at home in his full-sized bed. Awash in pale moonlight, creeping in through a window behind him, he reeled in imagined pain that lingered from the nightmare scene in his mind. A cold sweat covered his forehead, his body trembled with fear. After regaining his composure, he stared around his organized half of an otherwise cluttered room, which he shared with his older brother, frantically trying to find the monster that he was entangled in battle with just moments ago. Much to his delight, he was at home safe under the covers of his favorite blanket, Mr. Snuggles. On his walls were posters from the popular sci-fi third-person shooter video game, Bullet Shoot, with the catchphrase, "Fight until you bleed dry," stretched across it. Two closets stood doors ajar on either side of the room. His revealed a very unimaginative decor, since it mostly consisted of school uniforms. In stark contrast was his brother's closet, with dirty clothes piled in clumps. In front of his bed was a computer table, but instead of a computer, an overlarge, flat-screen TV covered the surface. Underneath, an expensive gaming console he had to beg and plead with his parents for 2 years to get sat idle. His brother, the 25-year-old Marcus Smith, was absent from his disheveled bed as usual. He spent most nights drinking away his sorrows at the local tavern, a hobby he had acquired after the recent tragic passing of their sister. His brother had mostly forgotten he had a room of his own until he stumbled in for his naps before work. He is a mechanic, but his skills and his attitude had suffered greatly since the tragedy. Justin thought that he was alone in the house, which he preferred since he didn't like to bother anyone else with his problems. But he soon heard his parents bustling down the hallway to save their baby boy. They burst into his room to find their child was safe, but once again struggling with night terrors. "Call 911, John," his shapely, raven-haired mother bellowed as she entered the room. "Maria, the EMTs would be able to help our son with his nightmares as much as a dolphin could help a doctor perform surgery," his pale-mustached dad, just off his shift as the local sheriff, said. "I'll deal with you later," Maria warned before anxiously moving over to her son. "What's wrong, mijo?" "I'm sorry, Mom. It's just another nightmare," Justin said. "Please, go back to sleep." "Thought so," John added sarcastically. "What happened this time?" "I got my leg ripped off again," Justin sighed. The parents looked to one another with worry on their faces. "It's all right, mijo. We will get through this," Maria said as she wrapped her son up in her powerful arms, causing him to struggle to breathe. "Tomorrow you will have another appointment with your therapist, and she says that you're improving." John rolled his eyes. "Maria, it's been 2 weeks with that lady, going on the 3rd, and nothing's changed. He's still having nightmares. He still believes he traveled to a different world. I guess what I'm trying to say is, maybe we should let this run its course without her instead of throwing money out the window." Maria unlatched from her son to stand up to her full size of 5 feet tall and stare into the deep blue eyes of her very frightened husband with the fierceness of a giant. "You listen to me, John. The therapist said that this kind of delusion could take months, if not years, to reverse. So we have to be patient and stand with our son as he goes through this. John shook his head. Some of the people around town think they took drugs, Maria. But how could the police that they appeared out of nowhere in front of be wrong? Were they on drugs too? Did our church hide them away, give them drugs, and then magically teleported them in front of the police? John shook his head. We didn't take drugs, Justin said. We asked to be tested by God, and he sent us to the in-between to save the angel's life. Why don't you believe us? John replied, It's not that we don't believe you, son. It's that your story's impossible. I've been through a lot of impossible situations in the military, but I've never even heard of something like this happening before outside the movies. But it happened, Justin said. And no matter how much counseling I get, the truth isn't changing. Don't you guys see how different we are? Our grades have jumped up to the best in class. We don't fight, steal, swear, or do any kind of drugs. The Holy Knights help everyone that will allow us to, regardless of background. Holy Knights? Maria asked. Mijo, the principal warned us about them. Please tell me you're not hanging out with those, what he called, terrorists. Maria, John said. Those Holy Knights are the best kids at the school. In past 2 weeks, they've helped cut down on drug-related crimes by 90%. That's unheard of even by martial law standards. The school board loves them. It's only that freak of a new principal that doesn't. I dealt with real terrorists in Iraq, and these kids are nothing like them. We don't spend all day with Justin to know that for sure, Maria warned her husband with tears in her eyes. The principal does, and I don't want to lose another child. John swooped down and enveloped his wife into a hug, silent tears soaking the front of his uniform. God, I don't either. I miss my little princess. My heart breaks open every time I wake up, and again when I see her in my dreams, and again when I run to her room to hold my daughter but find her bed empty. Justin jumped out of his bed and embraced his family. They cried together for the first time since the funeral. John pulled away after noticing the time on his watch. Son, try to get some sleep. You have a long day ahead of you with that lady. Your mom and I love you, and we are here for you no matter how long this thing takes. Justin nodded his head. He climbed back into his bed and wiped the tears from his cheeks. Thank you, guys. I will try not to wake you up tomorrow. But we did go to the in-between. I fought in real combat, lost real people along the way. Dad, you should know what I'm talking about more than anyone else with what you went through in Iraq. John's voice quivered as he wiped the sorrow from his face. That is something I'm not going to discuss with you today, son, but I do all that I can to honor those fallen heroes by the way that I live every day. So do I, Dad, Justin said, laying back into his pillow with a yawn, slowly closing his eyes. So do I. End of chapter 1.